Hey everybody. Welcome to the unofficial, semi-official SuperFolder Central podcast. Currently it's SuperFolder Con, as everybody knows. I am Peyton, also known as Origami Luke 100, and who are you people?
I'm Java, one of the co-founders of SuperFolder Central.
Yep. I'm JC, another one of the founders.
I'm Cammy. I'm here.
Okay. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have a few of the council members here. Currently, we do not have Jar Jar. Oh, I take that back. Jar Jar just joined. He is currently muted right now, and we don't have Noah and Super Dueler CJ.
I invited CJ, but I don't know if he'll show up. We'll see.
We'll see. Maybe halfway through. So here's basically how the whole thing is going to work. Essentially, we have a ton of questions that have been asked on a Discord server that's ran by our fans, but they've asked a ton of questions, and there's been a few questions that have been asked on the website itself. And so I'm really excited to ask these with you guys. And if I come up with any questions during it, or we just get into a conversation, that's perfectly fine as well. So, yeah.
I'm so ready.
Good. Let's do it.
Well, as the great Dwight Tharp once said to then President Barack Obama at his meeting, Stooky. So, okay, so let's get started. Here's the first question. It comes from Crimson Dawn. Why did you
Hi,
rename
Crimson.
the site?
I can take this, and JC, if you want to pitch in, because
Gotcha.
so the reason we changed the name from Origami Yoda, the Expanded Universe, to SuperFolder Central was because the site isn't just focused on Origami Yoda anymore. There's the MOU and the DCOU and all of the brand new universes, like the cartoon universe and the anime universe. All of those have started popping up, and so we decided that we needed a name change just because Origami Yoda Expanded Universe didn't really fit what the site is anymore.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of, even though it was a very expansive universe that began to encompass these other franchises into it, it seemed like the website kind of needed a bit of a revival, and we thought, well, if we start launching some more universes, it's really no longer centrally about Origami Yoda, especially with the Bounty Hunter saga fully coming to its close. So it seemed like we're not telling Yoda stories anymore, at least not yet, and we're writing all these other stories on these other franchises. So it seemed like kind of a reasonable choice, like, well, if we're gonna do this, let's just change the name up, change some things, make it look nice, and do sort of a revival, get some more interest in.
Cammy, do you have anything to sort of say on this? I mean, if not, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, we had a story come to an end. Thanos and the Infinity Folds. It was the end of the MOU in a lot of ways, even though Fold 4 is coming up and we've got some great stuff planned. Thanos was a big finale, so I think this is kind of like welcoming in a new age and turning it over to the super folders and saying, okay, you've contributed to like the MOU, done lots of stuff there, you've helped with the DCOU, the OEU, and now it's time to see what universes you guys can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really, really, really enjoy the aspect of SuperFolder Central where everybody gets the chance to make something that they want to see. Making like a video pleats universe. And at first we were a tad like suspicious about that because it was like, how is Origami Master going to do this? And then he has been doing it with flying colors. Like, it is insane. The crossovers he has planned. I mean, there's obviously Super Smash Brothers and stuff that he can do, but I kind of see what he'll do with Rapids Middle School. And then there's Guillermo's Wizarding Folds story, which I know he has been like wanting to do since like a year or two ago. And so him finally getting the chance to do that has really just established like the chances that our users can do with the site as a whole.
Yeah. So on that note, it's kind of really neat to me to see how the sort of divide between the body of superfolders and the council, so to speak, has really kind of started to blur and blend a little bit, because it's all of our expanded universe. So it's like everybody's got their say in the stories that they're writing and everything. So it doesn't feel so much anymore like it used to. We always kind of hoped the EU would be this just giant expansion project from every voice anywhere.
The next question is from Superfolder Guillermo, and it is actually like a really nice mend into what we just talked about. What do you think about the current writers of the Superfolder Central?
Man, they are the heroes, because they are, like Jawa said, the universe has never really been about the council. It's been about the superfolders, and that's why they help write the stories. It's not like we're the only ones writing the stories. So I feel like adding these new universes is just emphasizing that. So the fact that they're just like taking it head on, it's really cool to see.
I'm really proud of our writers. So, for example, Superfolder Hades started out, he came in and he did Novagami and Adam Papercut. And I remember editing that, and there's some parts in that I was like, this is just crazy. For example, he had a scene where the character Dane cooks a rat using his phone.
It's a classic.
It's a classic scene. It's referenced in what is it?
Infinity Folds. Noah and I referenced it. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. But sometimes those stories I was like, oh, this is really crazy. And then Hades started up the Riordan Origami that spans like not only Percy Jackson stories, but like the Kane Chronicles, and I assume the Norse god ones. I forget, Magnus Chase and Heroes of Olympus. And like he definitely has improved as a writer, and it's like really awesome to see people grow with their stories. That's just one example of the many that we have. It's awesome in my opinion.
For my frame of reference for seeing the current super writers and what they've been up to, hasn't really been through the MOU or the DCOU or the one shots or anything like that. I mostly have gotten to see, just because I've been pretty busy, I've gotten to see them through the Revenge of the Sith from a Certain Point of View anthology, which I still need to finish publishing. Origami Master has been pretty awesomely persistent about that, so I gotta keep that in mind to release them more frequently. But a lot of you guys, these super writers, have put together some really great stories, and I was really impressed with a lot of them and just their quality. Some of them are just outrageously funny, like one where Obi-Wan has to wrestle Boga into a starfighter, like just one of his little one-man starfighters, just to try and take him to Utapau with him. That gets me. I love that. But and other ones are really like dark and thoughtful and insightful, like the Grand Inquisitor during the Jedi Temple March, and what he was doing during that moment when he chose to go dark side. And I don't know, just it's nice to see all the writing talent, and I could easily see them all growing to be, the next generation, the next iteration of the council itself. So
also from Superfolder Guillermo is, what gave you guys the idea to reboot Fold of the Rings? I know JC and Jawa can give a lot of like background on this, but I want to kind of tell like a little bit of my story with Fold of the Rings.
Woohoo! This is the good stuff. This is where it gets good. The original author, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not one of the original authors, so, or yeah, I guess so. Like,
yeah,
the main deal with the Fold of the Rings was that it was by various super folders. And whenever I like think about Fold of the Rings, I think about it as though it's a precursor to what we have now with the DCOU and the MOU. Because arguably, if we were to ever publish, if that was ever possible, if we were to ever publish M or DCOU all together in a big anthology, we would have by various super folders at the bottom. And like, Fold of the Rings is very interesting because, for example, there's a character in there named Peyton who has an origami golem puppet, and the main gag in that is continues to be torn and torn, and I get a kick out of it every single time. And I think that since we're rebooting Fold of the Rings, Tolkien's universe decided to have like a large array of stories in the universe. Like, somebody could probably sit down and do a story about the orcs or stuff like
Tom
that.
Bombadil.
Yeah. So I think that the Hobbit universe in the world of Middle Earth in an origami setting would be so fun to see what happens. But obviously I'm not the one that came up with the idea to reboot the Fold of the Rings universe, so I am tossing that over to JC and Jawa.
All right. So I'll be brief because I want Jawa to answer most of this. I feel like I've answered a lot. But Fold of the Rings, like, I really loved helping to kickstart the original version of that back then, and one of my favorite memories is Peyton and I took the first book, our golden edition as we called it, and we had drawings in there, and we sent it to Tolkien Enterprises through email.
Yeah.
And we got a nice response back. They said some really kind things about it, which, I mean, if we were to actually look at the quality of writing, it's below everything that's presently, but they were very kind and very nice about it. They just, they mentioned that they obviously could not release this property because it's not something that they could do with that, but they said some nice words, and we were able to, after that, put I forget what we put, but we wrote something on the cover that said, like, as acknowledged by Tolkien Estate or something like that.
It was pretty cool.
Was fun.
It was plastic dinosaurs. That was awesome.
So the reason we decided to reboot Fold of the Rings is because, one, it had been dormant for so long. Like, nothing had been created in that universe for years at this point. And then when we rebranded as SuperFolder Central, we were thinking of, we're moving between the folds over to the EU again, so why don't we bring back Fold of the Rings to go with that? And I read Fold of the Rings when it came out in like 2013, 14, whenever it was. And I really enjoyed it, but it's been so long since I've read it that I remember almost nothing. So I decided that I'm not going to go back and read the old stories. I want to remake Fold of the Rings from the ground up, because most of our original readers that wrote and read the first iteration of Fold of the Rings have left the Origami Yoda community. And so I think it would be a good idea to work from the ground up for our new readers, because they don't have attachments to like Peter and Elijah and Peyton like we do. So I think creating new characters with a new story would be the better way to go.
Okay, this isn't a question in the Q&A thing, but I wanna make a quick little discussion right now. Wishing Skittles in Fold of the Rings, yes or no?
No.
No,
No.
no,
No.
they're done.
Okay.
Yep. They're
Perfect.
they're dead. That's it. End of story. Enough said.
So, Lord Totemort asked, "What is our opinion on the state of the site right now?" And this is just a very quick thing because it's kind of retreading old things we talked about. So, like, just a one sentence thing. I really like what the site is doing.
I think we're experiencing kind of a renaissance of the site, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever seen those pictures of clouds with bright skies ahead, that's what we're looking like.
So, Guillermo gives us 3 rapid fire questions. What do you think about an Instagram channel for the SuperFolder Central to promote it?
We are kind of looking into it.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely looking into it. There's a chance we could get more Harveys than,
And legitimate super folders.
yeah. We don't want, bad users that are, wanting to just cause chaos. There's something interesting that I can probably talk about. Whenever we go on the site and we look at the visitors, there is 42 visitors, unique people with unique addresses clocking in and reading our posts. But we don't really have those users registering accounts. So, if you're one of those users that is listening, come join us. It could be really fun to see you guys here. And yeah, we would love to promote. We were thinking of maybe starting a Twitter, a subreddit, etc., etc. I think it would be really interesting to see what we could do with that. This is a question for all of us. What do you consider a good SuperFolder Central writer?
Everyone is a good writer if you just keep at it. I mean, your first stories may not be very good when you look back on it, but no matter how crappy your stories are when you start, if you just keep writing and pushing forward, you'll improve a lot. But no one is a bad writer unless they choose to be.
I could definitely attest to that. I look at my old work and I vomit. I'm physically repulsed by I go into BT folds and I see Ben 10 fold and I'm like, man, this is just retelling every single episode of Ben 10. What was up with me? And so and then I look at the first couple of bad fold stories and I'm like, man, terrible. And even then, 2018, I write bad fold rebirth or whatever it was called. And I look back at that today and I'm like, this is awful. And I'm sure give me 2 years and I'm gonna go back and read Batfold Novik Detention and be like, man, this sucks.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the thing, because I don't think any of our stories are bad. They just look bad when we look back because we've learned more and we've become better writers. So it's
Yeah.
honestly a good thing that looking back your stories look bad, because that means you've grown as a writer.
right.
Yeah.
So it's just a sign of
Absolutely.
progress, and that story is just where you were at the time.
Okay, this is kind of a weirdly phrased question by Guillermo. What are the qualities you would like in your writers? I guess to rephrase that, what are you looking for in our writers?
Gotcha. Well, I'd say for Superfolder Central for our writers, I know this kind of answers the last question in a sense too, of what makes a good writer. But in a sense, we really admire kind of perseverance and persistence. To hold on to your ideas and not give up, because sometimes the best stories in the world won't get told because someone's reluctant to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I've had to kind of work on in a sense, with my book I've been writing. That's basically even if it's not perfect, it's better to have something that's released and imperfect than something perfect that never got onto shelves.
Right.
And I feel like for super writers and super doodlers and super movie makers, everything that you can do on these websites, the best thing is to just be persistent, be confident in your work, in yourself, and in your stories. And if you have a character that you have a connection with, or a situation that you have a connection with, like, Tom had his embarrassing stain experience when he was young, and that ended up being worked into, these books. He was kind of like, well, if I had an Origami Yoda or Origami Einstein or someone wise, then I could have avoided these awkward, middle school years of humiliation. And when you hold on to an idea like that you have a specific tie to, you'll end up getting, I think, a better story for it, because you're writing something that comes from the heart. And just, you don't want to give up on something if it means something to you. Like, if you feel like, oh man, I love Superman, so I'm gonna write Superman, and CJ did a spectacular job on that, and you could tell that he had kind of a passion for, like, the Superman character, that kind of imbued that story with a little bit of that spirit and patriotism and everything, and it just worked really well. And I think the best stories and the best super writers, those efforts kind of have to marry, in a sense, where you have to take your favorite stuff, your best stuff, or your worst stuff, the worst aspects of what's going on, your most embarrassing moments. All of it can come together to create a really great story. And
Absolutely.
That's my phone going off. Sorry about that. But but yeah, like, I think most super writers, as long as you guys are being persistent and you guys are, trying to be good in formatting the stories, that's always preferable. We like when stories are formatted nicely, and you guys do a good job at doing that. And punctuated correctly and everything. But even then, I don't even want to get hung up on that, because when you tell a story, the point will get across of your story one way or another, regardless of how you organize it. And I'm really impressed already with what you guys are doing, so I'd say you guys are the greatest iteration of super writers we could have.
I completely agree. To kind of bounce off of, like, the passion and stuff, I've read through and edited Guillermo's Wizarding Fold stories, and you can tell that he is in love with the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Just this passion that, like, he just wants to see, like, he has a story he wants to tell, and he's telling it well. He's telling it perfectly. I love it. Same thing with Origami Master. He is telling a story about the Legend of Zelda Origami, and you can tell that he loves Zelda. It just feels really good to see people do this stuff. I really like how our writers are learning to develop their characters. Used to be I would read stories, one-shots from the MOU, and the character growth was really rushed, and sometimes it would happen off chapter, like, you don't see it happen. Well, recently I've been reading, like, for example, Folders of Tomorrow is a really interesting story, because I'm letting Hades do this episode format where he's releasing them weekly, and I'd like to think that characters grow a lot more from Folders of Tomorrow 1, and then what he has planned for Folders of Tomorrow 3 is a lot more growth from Folders of Tomorrow 2. And I'm just liking that. I'm liking how it's all spaced out, and our writers are certainly getting better in learning character development. What happened to Nard? That's a really weird question. Boy, this curtain is sure thick. I wonder if you can hear it through the curtain. Tap, 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 tap. Uh,
You're on.
come on.
What is up, my dudes? Okay,
You are very
So-
loud.
Yeah.
I've been told that before, mostly by my family. Okay.
Anyway.
Leonard Broderick. That is not a name I have heard in a long time. I don't really know what happened because Nard just kind of disappeared because after Ironfold 2, he wasn't needed because his whole arc was fulfilled. He went from in Ironfold 1 being this huge gung-ho Wheeler racist, and then
okay.
And then in like at the end of that story, realizing that he'd become the very thing he hated, and then in Org Avengers, you find out that he's actually trying to work against Jude and help the Org Avengers stop everything Jude is planning. And then in Ironfold 2, he finally comes all the way around and is able to be a someone who can help Clark go back to the way he's supposed to be. And then after that, he really just wasn't necessary. So I guess the short answer is he's still around. He just hasn't showed up in a bit. I know there was this whole thing that people loved to mess with because I added like a random joke throughout Ironfold 2 that Nard was trying to get a date with Tilly. That doesn't go anywhere, so please stop.
My headcanon is that Nard starts the is it Sword in the comics, the space sector of the
Well, I'm trying to get so far away from organizations, so
that.
don't do that, please.
That's the guy who's creating X-Men.
Okay, I mean organizations that are like Shield or Sword or Hydra, whatever. But I guess we could say that Nard graduated like Harrison and Trent. So Nard's not in the story anymore. He's graduated. He's gone on to bigger and better things that do not involve Tilly Watterson in any way, shape, or form.
Guillermo asked the question of what story will close down MOU Fold 4 or close out MOU Fold 4 and reveal that.
Oh, did you guys hear about the weather?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I heard the sky's blue today.
Oh
Mine
wow, that's
really
cool.
gray over here.
Mine is gray. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found out that the trees were green the other day.
No way. So next question from Totemore is: did Thanos do anything directly to the closing down of the school? Which Thanos and the Infinity Folds kind of answered that question, but
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
they did.
They actually technically they didn't, which was Harrison's master stroke, I guess. None of Kirby's actual closing can be traced back to Thanos because Harrison was able to cover his tracks so well. So it can't go back to him, but what he wanted to do was to take credit for it so that everybody would know that Thanos was the one who destroyed everything. And the only reason that technically Thanos lost at the end of Infinity Folds is because Clark was able to deflect the blame from Thanos onto him and the Origami. So that's why they win, Thanos loses, and Thanos still really isn't at fault for anything that happened.
Okay.
I mean, they are at fault, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Totemore also asked, what is this new school's relationship to the age-old Wheeler-Kirby conflict?
They don't have much of one, but their relationship to it will be explored a lot in the Return of Emma Frost story, which I'll be writing. But the greatest connection it has to Kirby and Wheeler has already been revealed at the end of Return of the SES, that this was Emily's old school. So, anything that affected Kirby and Wheeler directly affects Emily. So they'll be able to learn and see how it goes at Claremont through Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, Noah actually referenced that in Imperfect Ironfold. If you look back into the story, I think it's near the end.
Oh no! Yeah.
Yeah, it's been referenced a few times, if I recall.
There's a lot of facts. There's a lot of little hints at stuff that you'd notice now that there's stuff coming out about Emily's past and just little references here and there.
The reason we call you Noah Feige.
Mm-hmm. There really is. What was the initial idea for Origami Yoda Revisited?
So the idea for Origami Yoda Revisited came from basically me and JC. We wanted to get back to the roots of the original Origami Yoda series, because since Pickle Team came out, the expanded universe, or SuperFolder Central, has been expanding more and more and becoming, in some ways, more grounded and in some ways more exaggerated. And none of it really feels like the original Origami Yoda series anymore. And so we were like, what if we tried to recapture that feeling by creating stories in between and during the original, like, official published Origami Yoda series. And so we came up with a couple stories, one about the first super folders before Dwight, and then how he folds Origami Yoda. The reason we created it, like I said, is just to make it stories that feel like they could be part of one of the original books. Not that we don't, we encourage to make different stories and stuff, like the MOU and DCOU, but it's kind of fun to write kind of nostalgic stories, and I think that's one of the reasons we created that.
Right. Some questions for you guys that weren't. Oh wait, Jar Jar just answered. So I believe Totemore asked this question of, is there going to be an email for the COU or the Cartoon Origami Universe or the Origami Cartoon Universe? The name will change like 6 times. Jar Jar says, absolutely. The plan is to have one specific to it, or maybe one for the Between the Folds as a whole. We're not quite sure yet. And I can really touch on that too. We're kind of thinking about it because, for example, the Video Pleats OU has its own email that goes directly to Origami Master. The Wizarding Folds email has its own email, and so does the Riordan universe. And then when people complete their stories, it's just sent straight to us on the DC Origami Universe email, because lately, like, I've had some free time and I've been able to edit. So I'll just sit down and edit the stories. But currently, things are getting really muddy because I'll be getting a DCOU story and then like a BT Fold story. And it gets so confusing sometimes. Also, currently, I've mentioned this before, I think somebody signed us up for spam emails because the Origami Chewbacca page has been bombarded as of late with People Magazine and stuff like that. Buy shoes and stuff. But yeah, because of that, for example, I just opened up the email for the Origami Chewbacca, and because we have been getting spammed, we completely missed an email from Guillermo. Guillermo, on behalf of the council, we're so sorry. It will be getting back to you soon. But so I'm gonna give some questions before we get to the last like 2 questions. What is you guys' favorite Origami story or Origami Yoda expanded universe bounty hunter saga story?
My favorite, and also don't tell anyone, one of the only ones that I've read, is the Paper Team saga with Jacob Mensch. That is probably, at least in my mind, it's the story that kick-started the expanded universe to what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of the first major stories, and Jacob Mensch even became such a popular character that he's made cameos in the books before, like the official Origami Yoda series, which is, I think, really cool. So Paper Teen 1 through 27 or however many there are, just the Paper Teen saga would probably be my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is insane how much Jacob is blown up.
Yeah.
I think my favorite. So like a long while back, I like went through the first volume of Rise of the Bounty Hunter stories because I was doing the wiki and I was doing summaries for each wiki page, and then I got bored when I read. It wasn't when I read a specific story, but I got kind of bored doing that. Like all of those, I overexerted myself and I was distracted myself. DCOU writing. But when I read, I really enjoyed Origami Yoda and the Bounty Hunters. And I also got to say that Cut Bane's Bounty was something that was so fun. Vernon O'Brien is such a fun character. And honestly, it would be awesome to see like an analog for that in later stories because Vernon is so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and JC has returned. So the question was, what is your favorite story from? Was it just the
It's like-
expanded universe, like just
like
Origami
It's just
Yoda?
EU. Yeah.
The E EU.
Well, I'd say one of my favorites is, I mean, more than anything, I know it's kind of teeters on Fold of the Rings, but the Chosen One, the grand finale, I really, really love that old story.
Yeah.
That kind of tied together our old expanded universe. And its ending was amazing, and I think it was CJ that did a wonderful final illustration that I really loved that. And I also really like this last stretch on the Bounty Hunter saga. There was like Twilight of the Student and everything, and I really most of all, it was so much fun to see kind of the old canon Jacob, the Emperor Minch, as we call him, versus the good guy Jacob that we've been establishing in our universe, and getting to see that final confrontation. I really liked that story. I thought that was a whole lot of fun. But yeah, those are a couple of the highlights, and they both just happen to be from the final installments of each series.
Yeah. Noah?
Let me think. I don't know if it's still on the site, but years ago there was this like collection that was published, and it had like a lot of the classic stuff in it. It's like Origami Chewbacca, Emperor Papertine, or like the Week of Papertine.
Are you talking about the Lost Case Files?
Not the Lost Case Files. It
Is
was
it the one where Dwight is sick? And
yeah, that one. Yeah, that one.
That was the original Origami Expanded Universe book, right?
Yeah, that we gave to Tom, right?
Yeah.
I think it was. I loved that, and it was like it was, since it had so many of the classics in it, it was really good for me to like read and enjoy. I was able to get a good feel for who Jacob was, who the EU Dwight was, and all of that. I think that might be my favorite, just for how nostalgic that is for me. I actually got in trouble because I was staying with my grandma, and I wanted to read that, but just like on my own time and not use her computer. So I printed it out, and it took like 100 pages and like so much printer ink, and it just kept printing, and so by the end of it, I came upstairs with this giant pack of paper, and my dad looks at me and he's like, "What the heck did you do?" I printed out some Origami fan fiction. And he just stares at me like, "What the heck?" So I got in trouble for printing out the EU fanfiction, and I hope you all know that.
Cammy, what's your favorite Mountie or like EU story?
I have a couple. I really enjoyed working on Twilight, but I honestly enjoyed the end This Is so much. It was just a very satisfying ending. So, like, as much as I enjoyed Volume 3, I thought it ended very satisfactorily in Volume 2. Really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also this story a while back that I really enjoyed. It involved Van Jank Yoda. I believe I just butchered that pronunciation.
No one really
but
knows
they
how
were
you're
like,
supposed to say it.
okay.
I always said
but-
Van Junka.
Van Junka.
Van Junka? Okay. Well, Junka, that story, there was some origami instructions at the end for how to do your own Van Junka Yoda. And it was like 2 pieces of paper, and it was a very detailed head. And I folded it. I have very good memories of that. So that was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Because of the mention of the end This Is, the other day I was kind of working through it. I quote, my favorite part from the end This Is. From behind him, everyone appeared from out of nowhere, and I mean everybody. Sarah, Kellen, Harvey, Hannah, Lance, Mike, Covado, Kathy, Carolyn, Jen, Rondella, Powell, Rusty, Tater Tot, Miss Toner, Amy, Mr. Snyder, Marcy, Todd, Mr. Good Clean Fun, Soapy, Zach, Mrs. Calhoun, Mr.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Remy. It goes on like this for like 10 more lines.
Yeah. Okay. To be fair, I had to scourge I scoured through every Origami Yoda book up until
Dun, dun,
15 because it was
dun, dun.
not yet.
Dun 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 dun.
Yes, exactly. It was Portals before Portals was a thing.
Yes. I was
But-
like,
It
oh
took
man.
so long.
I appreciate the effort. It kind of reminds me of Noah has an Excel spreadsheet of all the characters.
Oh, gee.
Oh,
It's legendary.
Not all of them. I haven't updated it in a while, but I probably should.
it's kind of insane.
It's a massive list.
And like also like all their appearances. So like I tried doing that with the DCOU, and then I was like, I only have 5 stories now in there, and I'm like, there's no way I could do this. Like,
Never underestimate my dedication.
it's insane, man. Another question for you guys, for those that have like gone through it, favorite MOU story that's not by the council.
MOU story?
Yes, MOU.
Okay. Let me think.
Spiderfold.
Which Spiderfold story?
Cut
Gosh,
that out,
there's
Solo.
so many.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Favorite non-council story for the MOU. This is gonna sound kind of surprising, but I really liked the Brother Voodoo by Thrawn.
Oh.
And that's fairly new.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I really liked it, obviously, because I made it bumped it up from one shot to main story after the fact. But the character of Angela Viss is written really well. The eye thing is kind of weird, but there's enough pseudoscience behind it that it gives him a particular sort of thing to set him apart. I like how he's connected to Duncan, giving Duncan some more to do, and I just really liked reading it and editing it. So yeah, that's my vote for my favorite. Dr. Brother Voodoo or How I Learned to Worry About Wheeler.
I think my favorite would have to be its precursor of sorts, Dr. Origami. Most of our readers don't really know about this, but I was doing like a major binge read of the entire MOU to do Return of the Summer Camp 6. And I was giving a review of each story as I read them. And when I got to Dr. Origami Strange, which is the second story in MOU Fold 3, and learning that it was unfinished, it hurt like a lot. I was like, dang, because I was enjoying it so much. It's such a great story, in my opinion, because first of all, Duncan Anderson, along with Neftali, it's hard to pronounce the name, and they're from Macquarie. Obviously, I'm butchering every single name that I'm saying today. They're from the Origami Yoda school, and so I was at first really suspicious of that because around the council we have this little like inside rule of like no references to Origami Yoda in our DCOU or MOU stories, but it is folded extremely well because of the way it is all written and told. I highly recommend it, and I high key hope that Crimson Dawn finishes it because it is really fun.
That's probably my favorite non-council MOU story as well. Dr. Origami Strange was good. I really enjoyed that.
This is a very easy question since there's only a few of them. Favorite DCOU story?
Batfold, for sure.
Soup
like-
Paper Man.
Yeah, Soup Paper Man. My opinion. But Green Paper
Okay,
Landing
I
was
haven't read
freaking-
Super Paperman yet.
Oh, dude.
I'm going
It's
to
good.
have to do that. I'm going to have to do the same thing that Peyton did, where he went through and read all the MOU stuff just to make it fair. But I did really like Batfold because that's the one that I've read,
Mhm.
and it's really good.
Soup Paper Man is so fun. I loved it. It's like I've never been the biggest fan of the Superman character. And then when I read that, it made me become a fan because I was like, dang, this is what Superman can be. Like just a normal dude of sorts with like he just has abilities. And he's a hero, and I just really like that. And he's supposed to represent hope, and I don't know, I like it a lot. Does anybody have a favorite BT Fold story?
Batfold, the new 2012.
No. Bad Fold the new 2012. I should really give some context on. It was 2015. I returned to the community, and that was my big comeback. And it was so bad that I left again for 3 years. um, besides that, favorite, like, no joke, favorite BT Fold story. Since we have the anime Origami universe starting up, we have Wizarding Folds already Wizarding Fold's got 5 stories under its belt. The Riordan Origami Universe has 2, and Video Pleats EU has 2 as well, and then 3 probably next week because I'm releasing Assassin's Crease. So, what's y'all's favorite? If y'all have read them.
I haven't really read any of them yet, but I'm looking most forward to the Riordan Origami Universe.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying the Wizarding Folds universe by Guillermo, and I'm excited for the Riordan one too because I was a big Riordan fan. With the Kane Chronicles and the Heroes of Olympus, Percy Jackson. So I was a big fan, but I'm also a Harry Potter fan, and I've really enjoyed the stories by Guillermo so far. So yeah, really enjoyed that.
Origami Master just asked, hey JC, do you know when the next Origami Yoda Legends are coming out? I have Revenge of the Origami Dirge sequels. We're working on it.
There we go. That's true.
Yeah, so the issue is we have received a lot of those legends actually in the feedback section of our OYEU, and most of the time people just send straight up a chapter at a time, and we have to really go through and figure that out. But yeah, that's basically the best answer that I could give.
It's very confusing and it takes a lot of time to sort out.
Totemort asks, how do you come up with good character names?
It's a name
good
generator.
I use an agent.
That's so sad.
It's really simple for me because I just used my name.
Everyone uses your name now.
Yeah. With Alan Wade, the Wade part is actually a reference to Tommy of Batfold the New 2012. And then so I was like, okay, that's really easy. And then Alan is Batman or Bruce's middle name. It's Bruce Allen Wayne. And so I was like, okay, yeah. Which I know this seems to imply that Alan's middle name is Bruce, but it's not. It's actually Sonic the Hedgehog. So it's Alan the Wade. Please don't take that as canon. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. But besides that, I use a name generator. Anybody else have insight on this topic?
I made Kurt Blum's name. The last name was kind of made up. It's just something I came up with on the spot. But Kurt is actually the name of Dwight Schrute, and his character Kurt Blum is loosely based off of Dwight Schrute. So that's partial. That's where the inspiration for the main name came up.
I feel like everyone knows Jacob Minch's name, but it's basically just Minch came from Yoda's original first name from George's Drafts of Empire.
What?
Yeah,
I did not know this.
I did not know that either.
Oh, really? Okay, Yoda's name in Empire's original draft is Minch Yoda. Minch was going to be his first name. So Minch Yoda was going to be this Jedi Master and everything. He looked kind of like a blue Smurf. And then they changed it to be green. They changed his name to just Yoda, tried to up the mystery factor. And I looked into that, and eventually in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, they had a Yoda species character name. And I just thought it'd be funny to have the guy who, because I didn't write Jacob initially, that was John F. And whenever I was like, okay, he needs a last name, I was like, well, let's make it ironic. If he's the guy that hates Yoda more than anybody, let's have his last name be Yoda's first name.
This is so insane.
That's genius.
Oh
So
man,
it's
that's
fun.
some drama.
Yeah. I can't remember where Clark's name came from, because Clark's family, like his mom, him, Cal, and Ricky, they're all Hispanic. But the names Clark and Largent really aren't Hispanic at all, so I don't know where they came from. Apparently Largent is like French in origin. So picture that his dad, along with being a deadbeat, is like a mime. That's why he left, because he and Clark's mom never could communicate. Never mind. Don't ignore that. But
That is canon now.
I can say that Andy's name, Andrew Gardner, it means a strong warrior, because Andrew means to be brave or strong or courageous, and then Gardner can mean a weapon or a like sounding an alarm. So he's like a strong warrior or one who bears arms, and that works well for his role as a leader.
That is so neat.
That's sweet.
Well,
I use a name generator.
the last thing Guillermo asks is, how about cool school names? How do you like do that?
I can
Just find a famous person from
Same.
the universe.
Yeah, pretty
that you're
much.
writing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious for like the MOU. There's like 4 schools. There's Kirby, which is very obviously named after Jack Kirby, who is like the illustrator who pretty much designed all of early Marvel, and he never gets enough credit, because he and Stan Lee are pretty much the ones who created everything. Then you have Wheeler, which is named after Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson, who was the creator of National Allied Publications, which is like a pulp comic company, which would eventually evolve into DC. So you have Kirby as the good school originally, and then Wheeler, which is connected to DC, would be like the enemy school. But now they're kind of, they're the good guys both now.
Mm-hmm.
Goodman Middle School. It's named after Martin Goodman, who was the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics when Stan Lee was still an author there. So he was kind of the one that gave the go-ahead to creating a lot of the Marvel Universe. And then Claremont, which is the school of the X-Men, is just named after Chris Claremont, who is pretty much given the credit for turning the X-Men into the really super famous team they are today.
Okay.
Jar Jar Binks asks, or not Jar Jar Binks, but like
It's a happy question.
You have to read this response as Jar Jar.
okay, I will.
Well, Mr. Binks realizes that cartoons are obviously a big part of any child's life. Well, once there were more serialized shows, now there are larger narratives, as seen in The Last Airbender and The Clone Wars. In short, I wanted a place where SFs could really cut loose and practice and hone their writing skills. Especially as our resources page continues to help out in that department. Misa excited for everything they're going to create.
The question to that was, what started cartoon universe? Well, those were the 2 last questions from our audience. I have one more question for you guys, and then we're going to close this all out. What do you have to say to the people at home, the viewers and the readers and the writers that are all coming and flocking to our site to look at what's going on, and also, like, since this is kind of the closing of SuperFolder Con, what do you have to say?
I like nuts.
Okay.
Plastic dinosaurs.
Biggie size your combo for 39 cents.
Thank you so much for supporting us. Like, a couple years ago, this wouldn't exist. It's like the site has really changed and grown in just like 2 years, and like 2 years ago it was dead. So thank you so much for bringing it back to life.
Yeah. Every
Yeah.
view, every comment, every story that you guys submitted, we couldn't have done any of this without you. You guys are what keep us going, and you guys shape the site. So
Keep writing, keep working, keep reading. The best way to grow, not just as a reader, but also a writer, is to keep working at it. Sitting down and reading 15 minutes a day will do you wonders. And also, like, trying to write, like, I try to make a goal of writing like 1,000 words a day. And obviously, like, don't try doing that much unless you want to. But doing that helps practice a lot.
I'm just so happy to see that, you know, this expanded universe that's now this central hub for us superfolders is really that it's managed to last all these years, somehow all this time, and that it still has so many of you awesome, you know, writers and origami folders, and I'm just really thankful, you know, and I just want to say, like, you know, thank you guys for, you know, being on this journey with us while we, you know, all kind of get to know all of our writing voices together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we really appreciate you guys. And shameless plug, I'm writing a book, so if you guys are interested in, you know, purchasing that book sometime in the near future, please stay tuned. I may start to have certain sneak peeks on my website, and I will be launching the website for my very soon.
also, I'd like to award an achievement award to everyone who made it to the end of this podcast. Which is
Yeah.
a good hour, I bet. So
Yeah, but it's been a really fun
congratulations.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a medal. Chewie even gets a medal this time.
Okay, guys, that was the end of the podcast. Who are you people?
I'm Jawa.
I'm JC.
I'm Noah.
I'm Cammy.
And I was Peyton, also known as Origami Luke 100. That was very fun. May the force or folds be with you all, always.